Blaise Pascal was a French mathematician, scientist, and philosopher who was alive in the 1600s. During the course of his illustrious career, he came up with what is known as Pascal's wager. And if you haven't heard of it, I encourage you to go online and look it up. There's arguments for and against it, of course. Essentially, what he's saying is that you should bet with your life that God does exist and put your faith in him wholeheartedly to receive the rewards. If you don't, you will lose all of those rewards and your chance at eternal life. This wager ends up being more or less recognized as the beginning of the science of statistics. Pascal goes into the wager scientifically and creates statistical formulas for the existence of God. For this discussion, though, I'm going to be talking about, do you feel like you're betting on God? Or do you feel that you are at least subconsciously reconciling some bet or some wager in your own mind about the truth in the Bible or what the Bible means or how it affects you spiritually? It's an important thing to consider because sometimes when people read the Bible, they wonder if they're just doing it for entertainment. For instance, the people that read the Bible from beginning to end. Are they doing it for inspiration or are they doing it because they want to get something as far as entertainment, or they feel like they're going to pick up some spiritual nuggets along the way? It's an interesting thing to have that approach because it is almost like a wager. The opposite of doing that is faith. So in other words, really super wanting in your heart, just like that visceral knowledge that you really want to get something from the Bible and that it is going to be given to you. So I pick up the Bible sometimes and just open it, and I'm amazed that time after time there will be a message for me that seems to be very appropriate for something that I'm thinking about or going through or the timing of some thought. It's amazing. It's very surprising sometimes and quite uncanny. I have that faith where I have that inherent knowledge or that limbic brain connection with God so that when I read the Bible, I understand what I'm going to be doing in a very spiritual way. It isn't my only source for spiritual inspiration and knowledge and education, but the Bible is absolutely there for doing that. What I'm saying is there is a faith way of reading the Bible and there's a statistical or a scientific or superstitious way, gambling if you will, that there might be something in the Bible that will be of value to you or someone else or some situation. Can you put the two things together? Can you put a superstitious or wagering type attitude into reading the Bible and get something? Why not? You should at least recognize what you're doing. Have that sense. Again, the name of the channel is Bible Sense. I mean, you should have a sense of what you're doing. Can you combine that sense of superstition or wagering without a real heartfelt connection? I say yes. You can put that with real faith. My faith in the information, I just feel like I'm going to learn something every time and I'm never disappointed. But for someone that just wonders whether or not they're going to, I would encourage you to examine your faith walk, if you will, along with that anticipation, like you're betting, like you're at a slot machine and you put the credits or the money into it and you pull that arm or you push that button and you're anticipating that you're going to get a reward. That's a very real thing. Obviously, people do win that way. When it comes to the Bible, and it can be very confusing and frustrating to read, I encourage you to pray and start incorporating a real sincere faith. Can you get that faith and develop that faith in that sense of reading the Bible as a spiritual guidebook through statistical anticipation? So you map it all out and then you go in there and you try to prove it by reading the Bible. It's an interesting part of Pascal's wager that maybe isn't talked about a lot. Reading the Bible and get value from this book that is so difficult to read. How can it fit into Pascal's wager? It almost seems like you need to read the Bible from the standpoint of believing in it and loving reading it, because if you don't, just going in there with that almost sterile betting approach, that mystical way of not connecting with the Bible but still wanting something from it. I've never been able to do that. Matter of fact, when I tried to do that when I was younger, I hated it and I didn't make it work. I may add a part 2 to this because I feel like I'm kind of rambling. I hope I'm being very clear that Pascal's wager doesn't necessarily include the experience of reading the Bible in a spiritual way, but rather almost presents reading the Bible as an aspect developing in the wager that you've made that God and eternal life do exist and are available to teach you and to bring you into a different realm after you leave Earth.